Good morning, and or whatever it is when you're watching this. Welcome to the second in a series of the Niwa author interviews. I am interviewing the authors of the Northwest Independent Writers Association, and with me today is MJE Clubb, who has written in a variety of genres. You've written mystery, horror, poetry, and even a book on Norse mythology, which is interesting.
Yeah, Norse mythology was probably the first collection I did, as far as publishing goes, for my independent publishing. That one was inspired by the poetic and prose Edda of Norse mythology. I noticed as I was reading those stories, which I come from some Norwegian ancestry on my mother's side. I noticed when I was reading those tales, however, that there was this significant gap when it came to the feminine characters like Freya, Frigga, Sigyn, all these vibrant, interesting characters that didn't have a story of their own, or if they are in a story, have a very secondary role. So, with that thought in mind, I wanted to fill that gap as much as I could. So, after doing a lot of research, and this is probably my most researched book, include all the titles I used during the process of making this one. Um, I retold existing tales that featured these feminine characters, and then I created new tales as well, especially for instance, Thor's daughter Thrud only appears in about, I think, in one story where a dwarf named Alvis is trying to trick her into marriage, and that's it. Like, you don't really get any of her personality. But to me, because she's a daughter of Thor, and research was showing that she was also listed as a Valkyrie, that it would seem that she would have a more warrior-like personality and more vivacious personality. So I tried to capture that in my stories for Thrud when I wrote that. So th that particular project was a passion project of not only reconnecting to my own personal ancestry, but also giving the feminine aspects of Norse mythology their due that I felt were missing. And it was a really fun project.
Cool. That sounds pretty interesting, actually. So, yeah, add in a lot of the missing pieces there,
Mhm.
and it sounds like you had to tease it out from several different sources. To
Oh, most definitely. I think the one of the more difficult tales to tease out and find a new iteration of was actually with in regards to Loki's sons with Sigyn, because those two sons are also listed as Odin's sons. So the way that I eventually adapted that was because Loki is already well known in Norse mythology to be a shapeshifter and has the ability to carry a pregnancy to term, as we learned with Sleipnir. Um, I essentially created a new interpretation of that where Odin is the father and Loki is the father mother as well, and Sigyn is the adopted mother for those children.
ah, that's really fascinating, actually. But okay, and so you've also written some other things. You've got some poetry collections, a
Mhm.
couple of them, and also horror and mystery. You've
Yeah,
got your most recent one is a mystery novel, right?
that's true. My most recent
Uh,
one is called Somewhere Long Forgotten. It's a mystery set in a small Oregon town where a cold case kind of turns this little town upside down as Sloane, the main character, comes back in to restart her life after a significant failure to launch during her time in Portland. She comes back home with her tail between her legs, stumbles into this cold case murder, and kind of bumbles her way through finding the truth and figuring out who the monster that has been stalking this small town actually is. And for Sloane, it's the person she would almost least expect.
okay. I think it's a good mystery then, and that one's a full novel, right? So
Yeah.
so all these different ones, you've got several standalone books. Is that your only novel so far? Or do you
No, I
have?
have two other novels that are published right now. My novel that came out a little bit ahead of Somewhere Long Forgotten is called Unwelcome. It's a horror novel that I call my suburban horror. It follows a mother and her adult son. So Karen and Daniel are the main characters of Unwelcome. And through the course of the story, you're following Karen and Daniel as they're figuring out their relationship because Daniel is a very sick kid. He is a young adult, 19, that has recently undergone a psychotic break, and he's now, even though he's an adult, going under the legal care of his mother again. So she's become his legal guardian, and they're figuring out their relationship and how and he's figuring out whether or not he even wants to take these medications, despite they're helpful, but they make him feel terrible. And as they're trying to figure out this uncertain ground, a cursed object gets brought into their house and a demon breaks loose. And it's the hottest summer of 2019, and there's hell to pay for this family, unfortunately. So it is a possession story, but it's also goes across the grief and how your own ego can get in the way of you helping out folks. Because during the course of the story, you also see that Karen has some secrets that she's just unwilling to let go of and unwilling to share the truth of. And that shame keeps her from actually helping the people she loves most.
Okay. Um, Tell us a little bit about the process too. So when you're writing these, how do you do that? Like, what comes first? You start with the character, or the setting, or the plot, or where does it? How does that gel together?
Usually, and it's funny that we talk about uh, unwelcome right before this,
Hmm.
is that I kind of have a possession of an idea. Um, what happens is I'll have this little nugget of a concept that sticks into my brain. So, like with the novel Blood and Water, which is a fantasy novel, I really wanted to have a story that followed Celtic mythology, specifically in Scotland, and was a story of journeying through the underworld through death. So from that little nugget of a girl's journey through death and being guided by a psychopomp came this story set in 1991. Where one main character is moving from Oregon to Scotland after the death of her parents to live with her maternal aunt and figure out what she wants to do with her life after that and who and how she can live after such a significant loss. And the second main character is that one going through the journey. She's been pulled through a portal into the world of Fae and has to find her way back to Scotland if she doesn't want death itself to catch her. So, and those two stories combine in Blood and Water. So for
Oh,
me, it often starts with this little nugget. And with Unwelcome, uh, the nugget that I started off with was I had heard very briefly in passing a story about someone who had been found in a catatonic state after a week and their mother had passed away in the home. And it was just this kind of weird mystery of what happened during that week that really started spinning in my mind. It's like, how could how could that happen? What would cause someone to go catatonic for that long? And how did that mother pass away in that time? So that kind of interesting nugget really dug into my mind. And then with Somewhere Long Forgotten, the story for that actually came from this idea of this conceit, I should say, of a main character who's actually the sidekick the entire time for an investigation. I love the
hmm.
idea of a story being told from the sidekick's point of view. So Sloane in Somewhere Long Forgotten is very much she's not a good investigator. She's barely a good person. Um,
Oh,
but she's very flawed, not a terribly good friend. And even though she's so embroiled in this investigation, her journey is a little bit more about deciding what growth she needs to do personally to in order to deserve the kindness and love and grace her friends have been giving her for decades. So for her, it's a little bit more about growth. And actually, instead of being the lazy friend who doesn't ever help out, who doesn't ever engage, who's only replies and never seeks out that kind of engagement, instead of falling back on those bad habits, this is her opportunity to choose to grow and to choose to engage more in healthy ways and hopefully save her friend before it's too late.
very cool then. So let's see here. So you're a member of Niwa.
Hmm.
How long have you been a member there?
So I just joined this past year, and
Oh,
this year, so in 2025 is when I joined, and
okay.
2025 has been a really transformative year for me in general. I joined Niwa this that year. I started doing book events and vendor events that year and started to really engage with the author community more. And I feel like engaging with Niwa and all the local authors around me as well has been such a positive influence on my life and such a positive way to help me stay motivated to keep doing and keep writing and keep working on it because I'm so excited to share with the folks around me my next story, and I'm so excited to hear what other people are working on as well.
Well, so we're about the end of the time here. Do you have any last thoughts you'd like to share with us before you go?
Let's see. Well, I think so. Looking back on this past year, I just feel really grateful to be engaged with Niwa in the ways that I have been able to engage, and hopefully more in the future as well. Th- Writing can be such a lonely experience in a lot of ways. You spend a lot of time by yourself in the silence with only your own mind to occupy you, um, doing your craft. But having a community like Niwa has been incredibly positive and joyful to be a part of. There's so many little, like, even just getting the newsletters and seeing what other folks are up to and seeing the small victories around me helps me stay more on track and helps me stay more positive about my own journey because everybody's path through independent publishing is different. And seeing the victories of others adds to my joy for my own writing and my own path. And I'm just really grateful that I got to be a part of it. And it makes writing a much less lonely experience.
Thank you very much. And oh, one more question is where can
Mm.
people find your books? Uh,
Well, I'm a little bit everywhere.
okay.
Um, I have obviously on Amazon as well. I'm from the
Mhm.
Salem Kaiser area in Oregon, so I have quite a few local indie bookstores carry my titles as well. The Book Bin, B3, Skein and Scribe, Reader's Guide, Escape Fiction all carry my titles. You can also find anything on my website, which is a WordPress website, just mjeclub.com. And you'll be able to find all the information to contact me or where my books are listed through there. There's also ARC opportunities I will list on there. Somewhere Long Forgotten was a free ARC that I gave out before it came. before it went into production. And I'll have future ARCs, like for my next project, which is a horror adventure called Eat the Baby. So we'll I'll have that ARC out as soon as it's available, and I love being able to engage with the local community and give out free little stuff too. So if you want to contact me, look for me there too.
Okay. Thank you very much. And